Hello, and welcome to Sleepy Science by Nem Vita. Whether you're listening at the end of a long day or simply letting your thoughts slow down, this is a place where curiosity unfolds gently. There's nothing you need to solve, nothing you need to remember, and nothing you need to focus on. If you find your attention drifting, that's perfectly fine. Let the words become a soft background, and let your body settle into rest. Allow your breathing to soften, slow down, and become quiet, steady, and easy. I'm glad you're here. Tonight, we'll remain in this unhurried space. There's no destination to reach and nothing you need to hold on to. You're free to listen closely or simply let the sound pass through. The story continues gently, whether you're awake or already drifting. As we rest in this quieter rhythm, it becomes easier to imagine a time before lights, before clocks, before written calendars. A time when night arrived fully and completely, wrapping the land in darkness without interruption. Above, the sky opened wide, filled with countless points of light, steady and silent. For early humans, the night sky was not something distant or abstract. It was immediate and present, stretching from horizon to horizon. There were no screens competing for attention, no artificial glow softening the darkness. Only the stars, clear and countless, moving slowly in patterns too subtle to notice in a single night, but impossible to miss over time. Lying beneath this sky, people began to sense something steady. The stars did not flicker with urgency. They did not rush. Night after night, the same lights returned, holding their places with quiet reliability. Even as life on Earth changed, weather shifting, animals migrating, seasons turning, the sky remained calm and unchanged. There was comfort in that steadiness. In a world where survival required constant attention, the sky offered something different. It did not demand action. It did not signal danger. It simply existed, vast and patient, moving at a pace far slower than human concerns. Over time, people noticed that while the stars themselves stayed fixed relative to one another, the sky as a whole seemed to turn. Certain stars appeared only during particular times of year. Others vanished for months before returning to their familiar positions. These changes were slow, predictable, and gentle. No one needed to measure them precisely. The repetition was enough. The sky became a kind of background rhythm, marking the passage of time without words. Nights grew longer or shorter, air warmed or cooled. The land responded, and so did the people living on it. There was no attempt to control the sky, no belief that it could be commanded or altered. Instead, there was quiet observation, watching, remembering, letting patterns reveal themselves naturally without forcing meaning onto them. In this early relationship with the stars, there was no prediction, no instruction, and no pressure to understand everything at once. The sky did not offer answers. It offered presence. A reminder that some things moved slowly enough to be trusted. If your thoughts begin to wander here, that's perfectly natural. The people who first watched these skies did not analyze them as we do today. They rested beneath them. They listened to the quiet. They allowed the vastness overhead to soften the sharp edges of daily life. The night sky became a shared experience, something everyone could see, no matter where they were or who they were. It belonged to no one and everyone at once, a constant above a changing world. And as the stars continued their slow, steady motion, people learned something simple but lasting. Not everything needs to change quickly. Not everything needs to be understood. Some things are meant to remain quietly present, offering calm simply by being there. As you rest now, that same sky still exists above you. The stars continue their patient movement, unchanged by time, unchanged by attention. Whether you notice them or not, they remain steady, holding their places as they always have. And you're free to rest beneath them, just as others have done for thousands of years. As the steady presence of the night sky became familiar, something gentle began to happen in the human mind. When the same stars returned again and again, night after night, season after season, they stopped feeling distant. Familiarity softened them. What had once seemed vast and unknowable slowly became recognizable. When people looked up, they did not see isolated points of light. The mind naturally connected them. This is something the human brain has always done. Faced with complexity, it searches for shape. Faced with randomness, it looks for order. Not to solve a problem, but to feel oriented. Small clusters of stars began to stand out. A curve here, a line there. Over time, these groupings became easier to remember than individual lights scattered across the sky. Remembering them required no effort. The patterns simply stayed. Naming followed naturally. To name something is not to control it. It is to make it familiar. By giving shapes in the sky names, people created a shared way to talk about what they were seeing. A story could be passed from one person to another, from one generation to the next. The sky became something that could be described, remembered, and gently anticipated. These names were not chosen for accuracy. They were chosen for familiarity. Animals, tools, figures, and symbols drawn from daily life. Things people already understood. The sky reflected what mattered on Earth, not the other way around. In this way, the stars became a quiet mirror of human experience. The shapes seen above were shaped by memory, culture, and imagination. Different groups of people, living under the same stars, saw different figures entirely. The sky allowed for this. It did not correct them. It did not insist on one interpretation. What mattered was not whether the pattern was objectively real, but whether it was shared. Naming the stars also made the sky easier to hold in the mind. Without writing, without maps, memory depended on stories. A figure in the sky could be remembered long after individual stars blurred together. Stories moved more easily than numbers. They rested more gently in the mind. As these names spread, they created a sense of continuity. A child learned the same sky their parents had learned, the same patterns, the same stories. Even as people aged and places changed, the stars remained a constant reference. There was reassurance in that repetition. The stars did not surprise. They did not shift suddenly. They followed their slow paths, returning to their places with dependable calm. In a world where much was uncertain, this reliability mattered. Over time, these named patterns became part of daily awareness, not something studied, but something quietly known. They rose and set. They appeared and disappeared. They marked the passing of time without ever announcing it. No one rushed to understand them fully. There was no need. The relationship was not analytical. It was relational. The stars were companions in the background of life, present whether or not they were being actively observed. If your attention drifts here, that's completely fine. This way of knowing the sky never required focus. It unfolded slowly, through repetition rather than concentration, through presence rather than effort. The act of naming did not shrink the sky. It made it feel closer, less distant, less overwhelming. By turning scattered light into recognizable forms, people found a quiet sense of place beneath the vastness overhead. And as the stars continued their slow, steady movement, these names remained. Not because they were necessary, but because they were comforting. A way to feel oriented beneath something far larger than any single human life. As names settled into memory, the night sky slowly transformed from a scatter of lights into something more familiar. The stars themselves did not change, but the way people related to them did. What once felt vast and anonymous began to feel gently organized, held together by quiet stories rather than strict measurements. These groupings of stars were never meant to be exact. They were not maps in the modern sense. No one expected the shapes in the sky to match the figures perfectly. The lines were imagined. The connections were suggested rather than drawn. What mattered was not precision, but recognition. A constellation was a way of seeing together. A shared agreement that this cluster resembled an animal, or that curve suggested a figure from memory or myth. Once seen, it became difficult to unsee. The pattern lingered, even when the mind drifted. Stories helped these patterns endure. A story could carry meaning across time in a way that raw observation could not. It could be told beside a fire, repeated on long nights, remembered without effort. The sky became a canvas where human memory rested lightly, without needing to be preserved in stone or ink. Different cultures told different stories beneath the same stars. A figure that appeared as a hunter in one place became a dancer or a guardian elsewhere. The sky allowed for this flexibility. It did not insist on one truth. It accepted many interpretations at once. This openness is important. Constellations were never declarations. They were invitations, ways of engaging with the sky that felt natural and unforced. If a story changed, the stars did not object. They continued their slow movement, unchanged by the meaning placed upon them. In this way, constellations served a gentle purpose. They gave the mind something to rest on, something recognizable in the darkness. They reduced the overwhelming scale of the sky into familiar pieces without diminishing its beauty. The act of storytelling also created continuity. When a story was passed down, the sky became a shared inheritance. Even if the land changed, even if people moved, the stars offered a sense of sameness. A quiet reminder that some patterns outlast individual lives. These stories were not meant to explain the universe. They were meant to accompany it, to sit alongside the unknown without trying to solve it. They offered presence rather than answers. Over time, the constellations became woven into daily awareness. They rose and set without announcement. They appeared in certain seasons, then faded away. Their return felt familiar, like the reappearance of a distant friend. There was no urgency in this relationship. The sky did not demand attention. It allowed itself to be noticed or ignored. The stories remained available, waiting patiently for anyone who chose to look up. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly natural. The constellations themselves were never meant to hold attention tightly. They existed on the edge of awareness, steady and unobtrusive. The night sky continued its slow turning, carrying these stories gently along. Not as instructions, not as predictions, but as quiet companions, reminding those beneath them that meaning could exist without certainty, and familiarity could exist without control. And as the stars held their places, the stories held theirs as well, resting lightly in human memory, ready to return whenever the night grew still. As the familiar star stories settled into memory, people began to notice another quiet pattern in the sky. While most stars held their positions relative to one another, a few lights moved differently. The sun followed a steady path across the year. The moon traced its own gentle rhythm. Certain bright points wandered slowly against the background of stars. This movement was subtle, but over time it became unmistakable. The sun appeared to pass through the same region of the sky again and again, returning to familiar star groupings in a slow, repeating cycle. This path was narrow, almost like a road drawn across the darkness. It did not rush. It curved gently, repeating itself without variation. By watching this path, early observers found a natural way to organize the year. The sky offered a quiet structure long before calendars existed. When the sun reached certain star patterns, the world below responded. Days grew longer or shorter. Temperatures shifted. The land changed its tone. To make sense of this rhythm, people began dividing this solar path into sections, not sharply and not with exact boundaries, but softly. Each section corresponded to a familiar group of stars that appeared along the sun's yearly journey. These divisions were remembered easily because they repeated without fail. This circle of star groupings became known as the Zodiac. The Zodiac was not designed to predict events. It did not promise outcomes or offer certainty. It functioned as a framework, a way to orient human experience within a larger cycle. It allowed people to say, gently, where they were in the turning of the year. Each section of the Zodiac returned at the same point in the seasonal flow. Similar conditions followed. Similar tasks arose. Over time, people noticed these repetitions and associated them with human experience. Not because the stars caused these qualities, but because the same environment invited the same responses. When the world required movement and effort, that season felt active. When the land grew quieter, people turned inward. These observations were layered slowly, generation after generation, until they became familiar associations rather than conscious conclusions. The Zodiac offered reassurance through repetition. It suggested that life did not move in straight lines, but in cycles, that moments of intensity were followed by rest, that endings naturally led back to beginnings. Nothing was permanent, and nothing was lost entirely. This way of understanding time was gentle. It did not divide life into successes and failures. It simply observed change, growth, pause, renewal, and release all had their place. The sky did not judge which phase was better. It allowed each one to exist. As stories and symbols accumulated around these sections, the zodiac became richer, but its foundation remained simple. A repeating sky, a turning year, human life moving alongside it. No one needed to believe that the stars controlled them. The value lay in recognition, not causation. Seeing one's own experiences reflected in a larger, steady pattern brought a quiet sense of order. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. The zodiac itself was never meant to be held tightly in the mind. It functioned best when it remained in the background, gently marking time without demanding focus. The sky continued its slow rotation, indifferent to interpretation. The stars returned to their places. Seasons followed their familiar rhythm, and within that steady movement, humans found a way to situate themselves, calmly and without urgency. The zodiac did not offer certainty about what would happen next. It offered continuity, a reminder that change unfolds at its own pace, and that life, like the sky, moves in cycles that do not need to be hurried. As the zodiac circle begins, attention naturally turns towards the point where motion feels new again. This section of the sky appears at a time when the year itself seems to wake. Light increases gradually. The air shifts. The sense of pause that lingered through colder months begins to loosen. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a ram, not because the stars clearly formed that shape, but because the idea felt appropriate. The ram was familiar, an animal known for movement, momentum, and a readiness to push forward. It became a symbol drawn from daily life, placed gently into the sky. This was not about personality or fate. It was about timing. When these stars appeared, the world below required action. Fields needed attention. Travel became easier. Work that had been delayed could finally begin. Energy returned, not suddenly, but steadily, like light stretching longer into the evening. People noticed this, and over time, they associated the return of this part of the sky with beginnings. Not dramatic starts, but practical ones. The quiet decision to move again after rest. The willingness to engage with the world after stillness. The ram in the sky did not cause this shift. It reflected it. It offered a visual marker for a change that was already happening. The stars became a reminder rather than a trigger. In this way, Aries came to represent forward motion, not reckless movement, but the natural urge to start, to take the first step after waiting, to respond to the environment as it opened again. This association made sense to the people who lived by the seasons. Life demanded effort at certain times and rest at others. The sky simply mirrored that rhythm. When the land required action, the stars overhead were remembered as active. There was comfort in this reflection. It suggested that feeling driven or restless was not random. It had its place, just as quiet had its place earlier in the cycle. Over generations, the symbol of the ram carried these ideas forward. Strength, initiative, movement, not as rules, but as familiar themes. A way to talk about a moment in the year when doing became easier than waiting. The stars themselves remained unchanged. They did not push, they did not hurry, they rose and set as they always had. But the meaning placed upon them helped people align their expectations with the natural flow around them. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly fine. The beginning of a cycle does not require focus. It unfolds whether attention is given to it or not. Aries was never meant to demand action. It simply marked a place where action felt more possible, where the world invited movement without force. And as the night sky turned slowly overhead, the ram returned to its place, year after year. A quiet signal of renewal, reminding those beneath it that beginnings do not need urgency. They arrive gently when the time is right, carried forward by the steady rhythm of the sky itself. Taurus. As the cycle continued, the sky shifted into a quieter, steadier phase. After the initial movement of early growth, there came a time when momentum slowed just enough to settle. The light remained strong, but it no longer felt urgent. The world did not ask for rapid change. It asked for consistency. The constellation linked to this period was seen as a bull, strong, solid, and familiar. An animal associated not with speed, but with endurance, with the ability to carry weight, to remain steady, to continue without rushing. The image fit naturally with what people experienced on the ground. When these stars appeared, life moved into a phase of maintenance. Seeds planted earlier required care rather than action. Growth was underway, but it needed patience. Fields were watched, structures were reinforced. Effort became quieter and more repetitive. People noticed that this time of year rewarded steadiness. Sudden changes were less useful than persistence. The land responded best to regular attention, not bursts of force. Over time, this quality became associated with the stars overhead. The bull in the sky did not create stability. It reflected it. By placing this symbol among the stars, people gave form to a feeling they already recognized, a sense that holding ground mattered, that there was value in staying, in tending, in allowing progress to unfold slowly. This association was not about resistance to change. It was about trust. Trust that growth continued even when it was not dramatic. Trust that effort applied steadily would be enough. In this way, Taurus became linked with grounding, with the idea that not every moment required decision or movement. Some moments asked for presence instead, for attention without urgency. The stars themselves offered no instruction. They remained quiet and distant. But the pattern people remembered helped them align their expectations. It reminded them that slowing down was not failure. It was part of the cycle. Over generations, this symbolism deepened. Strength came to mean reliability rather than force. Value came to mean continuity rather than speed. These ideas rested gently within the image of the bull. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle was never meant to demand alertness. It supported calm repetition, routine, and familiarity. The night sky continued its slow turning. The bull returned each year, steady and unchanged. And beneath it, people learned that there is comfort in consistency, that progress does not always need to feel fast to be real. Taurus marked a place in the sky where steadiness was honored, where staying became as meaningful as starting, where the quiet work of maintaining life found its reflection above, carried gently forward by the unhurried rhythm of the stars. Gemini. As the year continued its gentle unfolding, the rhythm of life shifted once again. After the steadiness of maintenance, there came a period marked by movement of a different kind. Not the push of beginnings, and not the patience of holding, but the subtle motion of exchange. Air moved more freely, paths crossed more often, activity spread outward rather than pressing forward. The constellation linked to this part of the cycle was seen as a pair of twins, two figures close together, mirroring one another in the sky. The image felt familiar, even comforting. Humans have always recognized themselves in pairs, in conversations, in contrasts, in relationships that exist side by side. When these stars appeared, the world below felt more connected. Travel became easier, voices carried farther. People spent more time sharing information, trading goods, and exchanging ideas. Life did not slow, but it also did not demand force. It invited interaction. The twins in the sky did not represent opposition. They represented reflection. The idea that understanding often emerges through comparison. That meaning can appear when two perspectives sit close enough to observe one another. People noticed that this time of year favored flexibility. Tasks shifted quickly. Attention moved from one thing to another. Curiosity felt natural. There was less focus on depth and more on movement between ideas. These qualities were not assigned by the stars. They were observed alongside them. Gemini became a symbol of connection rather than certainty, of motion rather than permanence. It reflected a moment in the cycle when the world encouraged responsiveness, when listening mattered as much as speaking, when learning came from exchange instead of isolation. The image of twins also softened the idea of contradiction. Two things could exist at once without canceling each other. Change did not require abandoning what came before. It simply added another layer. Over time, these observations settled into story. The stars overhead offered a reminder that life often moves through dialogue rather than declaration. That progress can come from shifting between viewpoints rather than holding tightly to one. The sky itself remained neutral. It did not choose sides. It allowed the twin stars to rise together, night after night, without favoring one over the other. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded sustained focus. It encouraged light attention, movement, and openness. It allowed the mind to wander without losing its place. As the night sky turned slowly, the twins returned to their familiar positions. A quiet reflection of how humans move through periods of exchange, of how meaning often forms in motion, carried gently forward by shared experience. Gemini marked a place in the sky where connection mattered, where understanding flowed between points rather than settling in one. And beneath those stars, people learned that not all progress comes from stillness or effort. Sometimes it comes from movement, conversation, and the simple act of sharing space beneath the same quiet sky. Cancer. As the cycle moved onward, the outward motion of exchange began to soften. After periods of movement and connection, there came a quieter turning inward. The world did not stop, but its pace shifted. Attention naturally returned closer to home, to familiar spaces, to places of rest and protection. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a crab, a small, unassuming figure, easy to overlook in the sky. Its stars are faint, not demanding attention. This subtlety mattered. The crab was not chosen for strength or speed, but for its nature. It moved cautiously. It carried its shelter with it. When these stars appeared, people experienced a season where care became central. The warmth of the year reached its fullness, but it also brought vulnerability. Life required protection as much as action. Families gathered. Food was preserved. Living spaces were tended. People noticed that this time encouraged sensitivity, not weakness, but awareness. Attention turned toward what needed guarding, what needed nurturing, what needed quiet presence rather than effort. The crab in the sky did not create these conditions. It reflected them. Its shell became a symbol of boundaries that protect rather than isolate. A reminder that turning inward can be an act of care, not withdrawal. Cancer came to represent inner life, the emotional spaces that are not visible from the outside, the importance of feeling secure before engaging with the wider world. These ideas formed slowly, shaped by experience rather than belief. The constellation's position near the soft glow of the Milky Way added to its meaning. This region of the sky felt dense, layered, and close, less empty than other areas. It reinforced the sense of closeness and containment that people already felt during this time. There was reassurance in recognizing this phase as part of a larger cycle. It suggested that needing comfort was not a failure. It was expected. Just as movement and exchange had their place, so did rest and protection. The stars themselves remained distant and neutral. They did not instruct anyone to retreat or engage, but the pattern people remembered helped them feel aligned with what was already happening around them. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never asked for alertness. It supported softness. It allowed the mind to settle inward, without losing its connection to the world. As the sky turned slowly overhead, the faint stars of Cancer returned year after year, quiet and unobtrusive, a gentle reflection of the human need for shelter, care, and inner balance. Cancer marked a place in the sky where protection was honored, where tending to what is close became as important as exploring what lies beyond. And beneath those stars, people learned that rest and safety are not pauses in life, but essential parts of its steady rhythm. Leo. As the cycle moved forward once more, the inward focus of care gradually opened outward again. The world reached a point of fullness. Days were long and bright. Warmth settled deeply into the land, lingering well into the evening. Life felt visible, expansive, and unmistakably present. The constellation associated with this part of the sky was seen as a lion, a figure long linked with strength, visibility, and command, not hidden or subtle, but open and unmistakable. The image fit naturally with what people experienced during this time of year. When these stars appeared, the sun stood high and strong. Crops grew tall. Animals were active. Human gatherings became more frequent. Work moved into the open. Life unfolded in shared spaces rather than behind shelter. People noticed that this period favored expression. Energy was no longer focused on protection or preparation. It moved outward, seeking recognition and participation. Effort felt easier when it was seen. Contribution felt meaningful when it was shared. The lion in the sky did not demand attention. It reflected a moment when attention naturally gathered. When the environment supported confidence and visibility. When standing fully in one's role felt appropriate rather than excessive. Over time, this association became part of the story. Leo came to represent presence, not dominance, but the simple act of being seen, of occupying space without apology, of offering what one has without hesitation. This symbolism was rooted in observation, not belief. When the land was full and the days were long, people felt more open. They spoke more freely. They celebrated more openly. The stars above became a reminder of this outward flow. The lion itself was familiar and respected, an animal associated with leadership and strength, but also with rest beneath the sun. It embodied both action and stillness, mirroring the balance people experienced during this season. The stars remained unchanged, indifferent to interpretation. They did not encourage pride or discourage humility. They simply returned, steady and quiet, year after year. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle does not require effort. It allows the mind to rest in warmth and openness without needing to decide or reflect deeply. As the night sky turned slowly, the stars of Leo rose again into view. A gentle reminder of a time when light is abundant and presence feels natural, when offering oneself to the world does not feel forced, but aligned. Leo marked a place in the sky where visibility was honored, where warmth extended beyond the physical and into shared experience. And beneath those stars, people learned that there are moments when simply being present is enough, carried quietly forward by the steady rhythm of the sky. Virgo. As the fullness of the year began to settle, the outward energy of warmth and visibility slowly shifted into something more precise. The days were still bright, but there was a subtle change in tone. Movement became more deliberate. Attention turned toward what needed care rather than expression. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a figure connected with gathering and preparation. Often imagined as a keeper of grain or a careful observer, Virgo reflected a time when details mattered. Not in a restless way, but in a quiet, steady one. When these stars appeared, the world entered a phase of refinement. Crops were tended carefully. Harvests were prepared. Small adjustments made a difference. Life rewarded attention more than force. What had grown now needed thoughtful handling. People noticed that this season encouraged awareness. Tasks felt more manageable when approached patiently. There was value in noticing what others might overlook, in correcting gently rather than pushing forward. The environment supported this shift naturally. Virgo did not become associated with care because the stars demanded it. The stars simply appeared during a time when care was already required. Their presence became a reminder of this quieter responsibility. The image of a careful figure in the sky offered reassurance. It suggested that tending, organizing, and adjusting were not lesser actions. They were essential parts of the cycle. Growth without care could not be sustained. Over time, this association deepened. Virgo came to represent attention given without expectation of recognition. Work done because it was needed, not because it would be seen. a moment in the year when usefulness mattered more than display. The stars themselves remained distant and unchanged. They did not judge effort or reward precision. But the pattern people remembered helped align their mindset with the needs of the season. There was calm in this alignment. It removed urgency. It allowed people to slow down without stopping, to act thoughtfully rather than reactively, to notice the quiet progress happening beneath the surface. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This phase of the cycle never demanded alertness. It supported gentle focus and unhurried care. It allowed the mind to rest in small, manageable thoughts. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Virgo returned to their familiar place. A quiet reflection of a time when order emerges naturally from attention, and care becomes a form of balance. Virgo marked a place in the sky where precision was softened by patience, where tending became as meaningful as creating. And beneath those stars, people learned that careful attention, applied gently and consistently, could carry life forward just as surely as any bold movement, guided quietly by the steady rhythm of the sky. Libra. As the careful attention of refinement eased its hold, the cycle moved into a phase where adjustment happened naturally rather than deliberately. The heat of the year softened. Days and nights began to approach one another in length. Light and darkness felt more evenly matched, neither dominating the other for long. The constellation linked to this moment was seen as a set of scales, a simple image, unlike the animals and figures that came before it. The scales represented balance, but not perfection. They reflected the ongoing process of adjustment, the small shifts required to keep things steady as conditions changed. When these stars appeared, the world entered a period of transition. Harvests were shared. Work was redistributed. People gathered to exchange goods, resolve differences, and prepare for what lay ahead. Life required cooperation more than effort. People noticed that this time favored fairness. Decisions carried more weight when they considered more than one perspective. Listening became as important as speaking. The environment encouraged compromise, not as loss, but as balance. The scales in the sky did not impose these values. They reflected a moment when equilibrium felt necessary, when extremes no longer served the season, when stability came from relationship rather than independence. Libra became associated with shared space, with the idea that balance is not static, but responsive, that it must be adjusted gently as circumstances change. These ideas formed slowly, grounded in experience rather than instruction. The stars themselves remained impartial. They did not tilt the scales in any direction. They rose and set without favor, offering a quiet reminder that balance is something humans create through interaction, not something granted by the sky. There was reassurance in recognizing this phase as part of a larger cycle. It suggested that seeking harmony was not hesitation, it was preparation, a way of aligning before deeper change arrived. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded certainty. It supported reflection, conversation, and calm consideration. It allowed the mind to rest between movements. As the night sky turned slowly overhead, the stars of Libra returned to their place. A gentle reflection of a time when balance mattered more than momentum. and shared understanding mattered more than speed. Libra marked a place in the sky where harmony was valued, where adjusting together became a form of strength. And beneath those stars, people learned that balance is not something found once and kept forever. It is something tended quietly, again and again, carried forward by the steady rhythm of the sky. Scorpio. As the balance of the year gently shifted once more, the world moved into a quieter and more inward phase. Light continued to fade earlier each evening. The air cooled. Activity slowed, not suddenly, but noticeably. Attention turned away from outward exchange and toward what lay beneath the surface. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a scorpion, a small creature, often hidden, more known for what it carries than for what it displays. Its image in the sky was subtle, its stars less prominent than many others. This subtlety mattered. It reflected a time when not everything needed to be visible. When these stars appeared, life required honesty and adaptation. Harvests ended. What remained had to be stored, protected, or let go. There was less room for excess. What was unnecessary gradually fell away, making space for what truly mattered. People noticed that this season encouraged depth. Surface solutions no longer felt sufficient. Problems required patience. Emotions became more complex. Reflection replaced action. These experiences were not caused by the stars, but they were mirrored by them. The scorpion became a symbol of transformation, not destruction. Change that happens quietly, change that is necessary rather than dramatic. The shedding of what no longer serves, without urgency or spectacle. Scorpio came to represent the unseen work of transition, the inner adjustments that prepare life for what comes next. It suggested that endings are not failures, but essential parts of continuity. The stars themselves remained distant and neutral. They did not impose intensity or remove comfort. They simply returned to their places, year after year, reflecting the steady presence of change in human life. There was reassurance in recognizing this phase as natural. It allowed people to accept discomfort without fear, to understand that stillness and introspection had a place in the larger rhythm. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded clarity. It supported quiet awareness and gentle release. It allowed the mind to rest in uncertainty without needing resolution. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Scorpio rose again into view. A quiet reminder that transformation does not need to be forced. It unfolds in its own time, often unseen, guided not by urgency, but by necessity. Scorpio marked a place in the sky where depth was honored, where change happened beneath the surface. And beneath those stars, people learned that letting go can be as important as holding on, carried gently forward by the steady rhythm of the sky. Sagittarius, as the inward work of transformation settled quietly into place, the cycle began to open outward once again. The year moved toward a wider horizon. The air felt clearer, the sky seemed deeper. Even as days shortened, there was a subtle sense of expansion, as though attention was being drawn beyond what was immediately close. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as an archer, a figure poised not in rest, but in aim. The image suggested direction rather than movement, intention rather than action. The archer did not rush forward. It looked outward, focusing on something distant. When these stars appeared, people experienced a season that invited perspective. The intense inward focus of earlier weeks softened. Questions expanded. Attention turned toward meaning, travel, and understanding beyond the immediate environment. People noticed that this time favored looking ahead, not in a predictive way, but in a reflective one. After shedding what was no longer needed, there was room to consider where energy might be directed next. The land rested, and so did immediate demands, allowing space for thought. The archer in the sky did not promise outcomes. It symbolized orientation, the quiet act of choosing a direction without needing to arrive immediately. The value lay in aiming, not in reaching. Sagittarius became associated with exploration, not because the stars caused curiosity, but because curiosity naturally arose during this phase. Stories traveled, ideas were shared. People reflected on experiences beyond their own villages and seasons. The sky offered a calm mirror for this outward gaze. Its depth reminded people that there was always more beyond what could be seen at once. That understanding did not require urgency. It unfolded gradually, like the slow movement of the stars themselves. The constellations' form suggested motion held in balance, a moment before release. A pause filled with intention rather than stillness. This reflected a human experience familiar to many, the feeling of readiness without pressure. The stars themselves remained neutral. They did not guide arrows or shape choices. They simply appeared, steady and distant, allowing meaning to rest lightly upon them. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded decisions. It allowed the mind to wander toward larger ideas without needing conclusions. It supported curiosity without urgency. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Sagittarius returned year after year. A quiet reminder that direction does not require speed, and that looking outward can be restful rather than demanding. Sagittarius marked a place in the sky where perspective mattered, where meaning expanded beyond the immediate moment. And beneath those stars, people learned that it is possible to hold intention gently, letting understanding grow at its own pace, carried forward by the steady rhythm of the sky. Capricorn. As the wider gaze of exploration gradually settled, the cycle moved into a quieter and more restrained phase. The year approached its deepest stillness. Days shortened noticeably. Cold became more present. The world did not ask for expansion. It asked for endurance. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a goat. Often imagined climbing steadily upward, the goat represented persistence rather than speed. It did not rush or leap unnecessarily. It moved carefully, placing each step with intention. When these stars appeared, life required patience. Growth slowed. Effort turned toward preservation. Resources were managed carefully. Progress became less visible, but no less important. People noticed that this time favored responsibility. Actions taken now mattered later. Small, consistent efforts sustained life through harsher conditions. There was little reward for excess or haste. What endured was what had been built steadily. The goat in the sky did not create discipline. It reflected it. Its presence reminded people that survival depended on restraint as much as action. That endurance was a form of strength. Capricorn became associated with structure and long effort, not ambition for its own sake, but commitment to what needed to be maintained. A recognition that some goals require time measured in seasons rather than moments. The stars themselves remained unchanged. They did not urge effort or offer relief. They simply returned, quiet and distant, reflecting the slow rhythm of persistence. There was reassurance in recognizing this phase as part of a larger cycle. It suggested that difficulty was not failure. It was a necessary passage. That endurance had its place, just as beginnings and expansion did. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded excitement. It supported quiet focus and steady presence. It allowed the mind to rest in repetition. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Capricorn rose again into view. A calm reminder that progress does not always feel light. That moving forward sometimes means holding position, maintaining balance, and trusting time. Capricorn marked a place in the sky where patience was honored, where effort was measured not by speed, but by consistency. And beneath those stars, people learned that endurance, applied gently and steadily, carries life forward through even the quietest and coldest parts of the year, guided by the unhurried rhythm of the sky. Aquarius, as the quiet endurance of winter continued, something subtle began to shift. Beneath the stillness, the sense of waiting softened into awareness. The deepest pause of the year carried with it the first signs of change, not yet visible, but quietly present. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as a water bearer, a figure holding a vessel, not to drink from, but to pour outward. The image suggested sharing rather than accumulation, distribution rather than possession. It pointed toward patterns that extend beyond the individual. When these stars appeared, people experienced a season that encouraged collective awareness. Survival depended not only on personal effort, but on shared systems. Communities relied on one another. Resources were pooled. Knowledge was exchanged quietly, without ceremony. People noticed that this time favored thinking in broader terms. Planning for what came next required cooperation. Attention shifted from individual needs to shared structures. Life moved forward through connection rather than isolation. The water bearer in the sky did not create these behaviors. It reflected them. Water itself had always been a symbol of life moving through many forms. When shared, it sustained. When withheld, it disappeared. Aquarius came to represent flow. Not emotional flow, but systemic flow. The movement of ideas, resources, and support through a group. A reminder that survival and progress often depend on networks rather than singular effort. The stars themselves remained unchanged and distant. They did not organize societies or guide innovation. They simply appeared during a time when people naturally looked beyond themselves. There was reassurance in recognizing this phase as a part of the cycle. It suggested that thinking about the collective was not a loss of individuality. It was a necessary shift, preparing for renewal. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded clarity or decision. It supported quiet awareness of connection. It allowed the mind to rest in a sense of belonging without needing to define it. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Aquarius returned year after year. A gentle reminder that life moves through shared patterns, that change often begins not with action, but with understanding how things are connected. Aquarius marked a place in the sky where the individual softened into the whole, where contribution mattered more than recognition. And beneath those stars, people learned that progress often flows quietly through systems we barely notice, carried forward by the steady, unhurried rhythm of the sky. Pisces, as the cycle approached its quiet conclusion, the sense of separation between phases began to soften. The sharp edges of winter slowly blurred. Light returned almost imperceptibly. The year did not restart abruptly. It drifted toward renewal. The constellation associated with this moment was seen as two fish, connected yet moving in gentle opposition. Their forms were not fixed or forceful. They suggested flow rather than structure, motion without urgency. The image fit naturally with a time when boundaries felt less defined. When these stars appeared, life moved into a phase of release. The demands of endurance eased. Strict plans loosened. Attention shifted away from effort and toward rest, reflection, and imagination. This was not inactivity. It was preparation through softness. People noticed that this season encouraged openness. Feelings blended. Memory and anticipation overlapped. The need for certainty faded. Instead, there was room for dreaming, storytelling, and quiet intuition. The fish in the sky did not create this sensitivity. They reflected it. Water had always symbolized continuity and transformation. It flows without holding shape. It connects what appears separate. Pisces carried this symbolism gently into the sky. This phase of the cycle offered closure without finality. It allowed what had been built and endured to dissolve naturally, making space for what would emerge next. Nothing was forced to end. It simply faded into readiness. The stars themselves remained distant and unchanged. They did not blur boundaries or sharpen them. They simply returned, offering a quiet mirror to the human experience of letting go. There was comfort in recognizing this phase as necessary. It suggested that rest was not retreat. It was transition. That allowing things to soften was part of renewal, not a pause from it. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This part of the cycle never demanded focus. It supported drifting awareness. It allowed the mind to float without direction, trusting that movement would return naturally. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the stars of Pisces rose again into view. A gentle reminder that endings do not need closure in words. They dissolve quietly, carried forward by the same steady rhythm that brings beginnings. Pisces marked a place in the sky where boundaries softened, where release became preparation. And beneath those stars, people learned that surrendering control can be as meaningful as taking action, guiding life gently toward its next cycle under the calm, unchanging sky. As the cycle completed its quiet passage through the sky, something remained unchanged. Long after the practical need for star stories faded, people continued to return to them, not out of necessity, but out of familiarity. The constellations endured not because they explained the world, but because they accompanied it. Even as tools improved and knowledge expanded, the night sky kept its place in human awareness. It did not compete with new understanding. It existed alongside it. The stories attached to the stars adapted, softened, and sometimes lost their original purpose. Yet they never fully disappeared. People noticed that these stories still offered comfort. In moments of uncertainty, familiar patterns felt grounding. Seeing the same shapes named centuries earlier created a sense of continuity that stretched beyond individual lives. The sky reminded people that they were part of something ongoing. The Zodiac, in particular, survived because it required very little. No belief was necessary, no commitment. One could engage with it lightly, or not at all. Its symbols rested quietly in the background of culture, available without obligation. These stories worked because they were flexible. They did not insist on precision. They allowed interpretation. A person could recognize themselves in a symbol one year and ignore it the next. The sky did not object. It did not keep score. Psychologically, this mattered. Humans have always sought meaning, but meaning does not always need certainty. Sometimes it simply needs familiarity. The stars provided a stable reference point, unchanged by personal circumstances. People did not return to these stories to know what would happen. They returned to feel oriented, to place themselves gently within a larger pattern, to remember that change had a rhythm and that moments of confusion were temporary. The constellations also offered permission to reflect without pressure. Reading meaning into the sky did not require action. It invited contemplation, a soft pause in the movement of life. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This return to familiar stories never demanded focus. It happened naturally, like noticing an old landmark while passing by. As generations passed, the stories evolved, but the stars remained. New interpretations formed, old ones faded. The sky held them all without preference. This endurance was not mystical, it was human. The stars became a quiet, cultural memory, a shared language that could be accessed without effort, carrying with it a sense of belonging. As the night sky continued its slow turning, people continued to look up. Not for answers, but for reassurance, for the feeling that something familiar still existed, steady and unchanged. And in that quiet return, the stories found their place again. Not as truths to follow, but as companions in stillness, carried gently forward beneath the same calm sky that has watched over humanity for as long as memory can reach. As the long cycle of observation and story came to rest, one understanding remained quietly in place. The stars themselves never claimed authority. They did not instruct, predict, or decide. They simply existed, steady and distant, moving through patterns far older than human memory. Over time, people learned that the meanings drawn from the sky were reflections rather than directions. The constellations did not shape human behavior. Human experience shaped the stories attached to the stars. The sky offered a surface onto which thoughts and feelings could be placed gently, without resistance. This distinction mattered. It allowed the stars to remain comforting rather than demanding. A guide would imply obligation. A mirror simply reflects what is already present. When people spoke of traits, seasons, or cycles associated with the zodiac, they were often describing themselves, their environment, their circumstances. The stars provided a quiet backdrop, that made these reflections feel external and easier to observe. The sky did not respond to belief or disbelief. It remained unchanged regardless of interpretation. This neutrality gave it a unique role. Meaning could rest there without consequence. No action was required. No conclusion needed to be reached. Psychologically, this offered relief. It allowed people to explore feelings without committing to them, to recognize patterns without feeling trapped by them, to hold questions gently without urgency. The idea of the stars as a mirror softened the relationship between humans and the unknown. Instead of seeking answers outside themselves, people could observe what arose within, using the sky as a calm reference point. This is why astrology endured without needing proof. Its value was not in accuracy, but in reflection. It provided language for experience, not instructions for living. The stars themselves remained silent. They did not affirm or deny. They simply returned night after night, season after season, holding their places with quiet consistency. If your attention drifts here, that's perfectly fine. This understanding was never meant to be grasped firmly. It works best when it rests lightly in the background of awareness. As the night sky continued its slow turning, the constellations rose and set as they always had. Their stories shifted and evolved, but the sky itself remained the same. And in that steadiness, people found something simple and lasting. Not guidance, but reassurance. Not prediction, but presence. The stars did not tell anyone where to go. They offered something quieter, a mirror in the darkness, reflecting human thought gently back to itself, carried forward by the unhurried rhythm of the sky. As the stories soften and the cycle completes its slow return, what remains is not an ending, but a quiet settling. The night sky continues as it always has, indifferent to conclusions, unconcerned with meaning. Stars rise, stars set. The motion never rushes, never pauses for attention. Long after the first names were spoken, long after constellations were drawn in memory, the sky still turns with the same steady patience. It does not hold on to stories. It allows them to pass. What endures is the rhythm. For those who look up, there is nothing required. No interpretation to reach, no lesson to remember. The sky does not test understanding. It offers presence, simple and uninterrupted. This steadiness has always mattered. In a world shaped by change, something that remains unchanged becomes a place of rest. The stars do not respond to urgency. They move too slowly to be hurried. They remain beyond the reach of expectation. When people lie beneath the night sky, attention naturally softens. Thoughts lose their sharp edges. The scale of the sky gently reorders what feels important. Concerns shrink without effort. Time stretches. This is why the stars have accompanied human rest for so long. Not because they provide answers, but because they create space. Space to breathe, space to drift, space to let the mind wander without needing direction. The constellations no longer need to be named. The Zodiac no longer needs to be followed. Their presence can fade quietly into the background. The sky remains, unchanged by whether it is noticed or not. If your thoughts drift here, that's perfectly fine. The sky has always welcomed wandering attention. It does not demand focus. It simply continues. As awareness softens, the sense of separation between observer and sky becomes less distinct. The quiet above mirrors the quiet within. Breath slows, the body settles. The night holds everything gently. There is no moment when this needs to end. The sky does not close, it does not finish. It turns slowly onward, carrying the same stars through the same paths, night after night. And beneath that unchanging motion, rest becomes natural, not something achieved, but something allowed. Just as countless others have rested beneath the same sky before, you can rest now, without effort. The stars remain overhead, steady and distant, doing what they have always done. And as they continue their quiet turning, you are free to let go, knowing that nothing needs to be decided, remembered, or understood. Only rest remains.